and gentlemen, CornishLAD here, and welcome to a World of Warships based video today. Pardon me. What you are seeing is an image of the hopefully the latest, the new cruisers that are coming into the game, the French cruiser line. We don't know if it's going to be a properly official set into the game yet. I know it isn't yet, but today I've picked out 3 ships to tell you what. 3 cruisers that are to tell you what they were like in the actual, in real life, what they were like in World War II, and their service and their kind of life. So today we begin with a Tier 4 French cruiser, the Duc de Troyes. I do apologise if I can't pronounce these names properly. I do apologise, but let's get down to it. So the cruiser had a full load displacement of 9,350 tons, a full length of 594 feet and 10 inches. Her propulsion was 4 shaft Parsons single reduction gear turbines, as well as 8 Guyot boilers. Her top speed is 33 knots. She had a complement of 27 officers and 551 sailors. Her armament are 8 155mm main guns, with which is mounted in 4 double barrel turrets, 4 75mm guns, anti-aircraft guns as well, which is of course just for 75mm anti-aircraft machine guns, I guess. And 12 550mm torpedo tubes. That is 4 triple mounted torpedo tubes, both port and starboard side, I think. So the Duc de Troyes, it was laid down in France of the 4th of August 1922 under the builder of Arsenal de Brest, launched on the 14th of August 1923. Commissioned into the French Navy of the 2nd of November 1926. So this is her pre-war. She was assigned, after the completion of the actual cruiser, she was assigned to the 2nd Squadron based at Brest Harbour, of course, in 1929. Then she became the flagship of the 3rd Light Division in the Mediterranean, and in 1931 she took an extended cruise towards what was then French colony of Indochina. But then the ship returned to Brest, to the 2nd Squadron in 1932, but as a flagship and remaining in Brest until 1935. But a year later, in 1936, she did become a gunnery training ship, but up until June of 1939, when she joined the 6th Cruiser Division. So not a lot sounds like it, but she did become a gunnery training ship, which is quite good. So when war broke out, when France declared war on Germany as well as Britain on the 3rd of September 1939, the ship herself, with others, was assigned to patrol the Atlantic Ocean to intercept German shipping, and she successfully did. On the 16th of October 1939, she intercepted the German merchant ship Halle, 200 miles southwest of Dakar, but that ship was scuttled to prevent, of course, capture. But in the early month of May 1940, she was transferred to the Eastern Mediterranean, based at Beirut, for operations in the Adriatic coast, in the Adriatic Sea and the Dole-Kansai. But unfortunately, after the French surrender, she joined Admiral René Emile Godfrey's Force X in the port of Alexandria of Egypt, where her and other French warships was actually disarmed by an agreement and interned by the British from the 22nd of June 1940. Yes, she was disarmed, surprisingly. A bit of a strange one, really, by an agreement. But by this point, Axis forces occupied Vichy, France, which is pretty much fascist France, in November 1942, but she rejoined the Allies on the 30th of May 1943 and was rearmed in July. But her only kind of action in employment was a troop transport in early 1944, She supported landings in southern France in August the same year and subsequently undertook bombardments along the Italian coast up until April of 1945. The ship, however, did survive the war. In May 1945, she also took part in the Sétif and Guinea massacre while bombarding villages in Algeria. As the ship, though, was later sent to Indochina and supported army operations against Viet Minh. Yeah, that is true. But she was decommissioned. She survived the war, but was decommissioned on the 19th of March 1952. And that's actually not, I mean, not to sound harsh, but some ships in the line, some end up either becoming not much, was not much action because of the fall of France. But some ships either was used for what was the Free French Navy and also the Vichy Navy, I think, as well. So we turn over to, we jump from tier 4 to tier 4, yeah, tier 6, if I'm right in saying. Yes, tier 6 to the La Galicianaire. Now this is a light cruiser, of course, which was, she was renamed after Roland Michel Baron de la Galicianaire. So she was laid down on the 15th of December 1931, launched in the 18th of November 1933. The builder, again, was the same as the De Gaulle, built by Arsenal de Brest, commissioned on the 1st of January 1936. So this is a light cruiser, tripled. We switched from, I think, double barrel gun turrets to triple barrel gun turrets. So the La Galicianaire, first assigned to the 2nd Light Squadron in the Mediterranean until October 1937. She also formed the 3rd Cruiser Division at Toulon, together with the sister ship Jean de Vianney and Marseillaise. At the outbreak of the Second World War, she carried out patrol duties off the Tunisian coast until mid-November 1939, when she started a major refit, unfortunately, at the port of Brest, unfortunately until the end of February 1940. She was then based at Toulon until the French surrender of June that same fateful year. Unfortunately, from January 1941, she was part of the Vichy High Seas Force at Toulon. Two of the three cruisers from the 3rd Cruiser Squadron, herself and Marseillaise, never went to the high seas, of course, due to lack of fuel, except in November 1940 to cover the return to Toulon of the battleship Provence, which was severely damaged by British gunfire in July 1940 during Operation Catapult. That is true. It is true. Also, I do kind of unfortunately go on, but you've not heard the rest of the the details of the old girl. So full load, she had a displacement of 9,120 tons, length 587 feet, propulsion 2 shaft pass and single reduction gear turbines, as well as 4 indirect boilers. Sorry, giving out, I'm guessing 84,000 horsepower. Top speed of 31 knots. Complement of 540. Her armament: 9 150mm guns, triple gun turrets, 3 of them luckily. 8 90mm guns, which was in, I'm guessing, 4 double barrel turrets. 24 40mm, 6 again in quadruples. This was. She is armed with torpedoes, 550mm, both in dual mounted torpedo tubes. So as we get back to as I was saying, however, La Galicianaire was effectively disarmed. Yes, she was disarmed and inactive when the Germans occupied Vichy France. She unfortunately was scuttled in the 27th of November 1942 to prevent the capture by the Germans and the Italians. The cruiser did share the actual same dry dock with the Dunkirk, and her captain moved her forward and opened the sea valves so that she would sink to block the gates, surprisingly. But it was not the end of her. Oh no. Italian FR12, allocated to the Kingdom of Italy after some political delays, she was unfortunately subsequently raised by the Regia Marina, or the Italian Royal Navy, on the 3rd of March 1943, repaired and renamed FR12. Oh yes, Italy got a good deal of French ships in November 1942, besides the La Galicianaire, 2 light cruisers, 11 destroyers, 11 escort ships, 9 submarines and 10 minesweepers. So it's a good chunk that the Italians got there. A refit began, but unfortunately was not finished. At the time of the Italian armistice, unfortunately nearly 60% of the ship was rebuilt, so it went far. The intention to incorporate the former French ship into the Regia Marina was, however, undermined by Italy's chronic oil fuel shortages. Unfortunately, while in German hands, yes, it still wasn't the end of her. It wasn't the end of her still. She was damaged by the US bombers on the 24th of November 1943. After the Italian armistice, La Galicianaire eventually sank on the 18th of August 1944 in an air raid by B-25 Mitchells of the United States Air Force, the 321st Bombardment Group. But the hulk was raised, and unfortunately she was scrapped in 1952. So yes, a French ship that was scuttled and then sunk and oh god, wait a minute, no, she wasn't scuttled, no, she was, wait a minute, fuck, I can't remember, here it is, she was disarmed, yeah, she was disarmed and scuttled, and then suicided, and then the Italians used her, or tried to, and failed unfortunately. So La Galicianaire is a bit of a life that's, you know, quite a bit of an action life, you know, brought back from the dead a few times more than anything. So we move forwards from tier 6 to tier 7 to the Algérie. Yes, a heavy cruiser that served in the early years of the war. She was built between 1931 and 1934, in commission unfortunately from 1934 to 1942. Here's her history. Here it is. Laid down on the 19th of March 1931. Launched on the 21st of May 1932. Built by Brest Dockyard. Same thing again. All these ships come from the same dockyard. She had a fully loaded displacement of 13,641 tons. The length 611 feet. Propulsion 4-shaft Ratu Bretonge SR geared turbines. 6 in-drip boilers, giving her 84,000 horsepower. Top speed of 31 knots. For a heavy cruiser, I wouldn't say that's too bad. She had a complement of 748 chaps. Armament, 8 203mm guns. I'm guessing this is, yes, 4 in double barrel, or 4 in dual mounted turrets. 12 100mm secondaries, 6 of them in dual mounted turrets, 8 37mm anti-aircraft guns, 4 in dual mounted turrets. This is for, but from 1941 it was up. She was upgraded to 16 37mm anti-aircraft guns in the same configuration. But that's not just it. 16 13.2mm anti-aircraft guns. It's 4 quadruple mounted anti-aircraft guns, but was upgraded from 1941 to 36 of them. And then finally she had 6 500mm torpedo tubes, which would be 2, how is it 2 by 3? Oh, yes, there we go. 2 of them in triple mounted, or well, triple torpedo tubes, and that's quite, you know, actually it's quite sounding like a good ship. So hopefully they'll, again, World of Warships will put in the upgrades for them when you go through. So a French cruiser started the Second World War as a flagship of the 1st Cruiser Squadron, which also included the cruisers Duclair, Foch, Duquesne, Tourville and Colbert, and it also destroyed from the 5th, 7th and 9th Contre-Torpilleur divisions. Algérie Duplay, the battleship Strasbourg, and the British aircraft carrier Hermes was based at Dakar of French West Africa. Well, while searching, yes, this is right, while searching for the German heavy cruiser, the Admiral Graf Spee. The old girl took part in the hunt for the Graf Spee, which then led from that to the Battle of the River Plate. In March 1940, after refitting at Toulon, she accompanied the battleship Bretonge to Canada, which was loaded with 3,000 cases of French gold as well. In April, Algerie returned to the Mediterranean when Italy declared war on France. She helped shell Genoa in June of that fateful year. Her last mission, though, before the French surrender, was a convoy escort. But unfortunately, after the French defeat of 1940, Algerie remained with the Vichy fleet based at Toulon. Her only mission, though, for the Vichy Navy was to escort the battleship Province back to Toulon, of course, as the battleship had summarily repaired after damage received from the British attack on Mers el Khabar in 1940. A year later, her secondary and anti-aircraft weaponry, of course, was strengthened. Therefore, you notice from 1941, the weaponry were upped, and in 1942 she was fitted with the early French-built radar. That is true. She was still there when the Germans invaded the so-called Free Zone, though, on the 27th of November 1942. Although she was among the ships scuttled in the scuttling of the French fleet in Toulon. Yep. Most of the French fleet, pretty much in the Second World War, was pretty much scuttled, so that the Germans couldn't have any hands on it. Dunkirk, the Richelieu, a lot of the French fleet was gone because of the fall of France a lot of the time. Although this is a good part, demolition charges were set on the ship. The Germans tried to persuade, yes, this, you are hearing this right now, the Germans did try to persuade her crew that scuttling was not permitted by armistice provisions, so they wanted this fleet, pretty much. Her captain then requested the Germans to wait until his superior could advise. As the fuses were lit, when Admiral Lacroix finally arrived, he ordered the ship evacuated. As the Germans were preparing to board, he told them that the cruiser was about to blow up. Unfortunately, she did blow up, but burned for 20 days. But the Italians, back the flaming grave robbers, rising the undead, raised her in sections on the 18th of March 1943. The remains, though, were bombed and sank again on the 7th of March 1944 and were finally raised but broken up for scrap 5 years later in 1949 by the gods. It's ridiculous. I should not laugh. I shouldn't laugh to France because they know what it's like living under the German living under an occupation of an enemy and having a good chunk of their naval force wrecked and destroyed. And it's, but it's funny how the Italians are like, oh look, we could raise the hull and repair it, we can use it. It may be, damaged, it may be under the sea, but we can still use it. It's ridiculous. Ambition is what it is. Ambition more than anything. So, that was 3 of the French cruisers that will hopefully be arriving in World of Warships soon. What do I think? A good selection, really. Names I already kind of well known, but overall, with their own life expectancy within the French Navy, it's a mix. Some of them were used for the fascist part of the French Navy. Some end up were still part of the free French Navy as well. So it's a mix. It's the kind of mix you get. Well, I don't know what they're going to be like in game. I can't say. All I can say is I've enjoyed giving you a kind of a taste of what they were like in real life. Hopefully they'll be good. Hopefully they'll be armed with HE as well as armor piercing. British cruisers. Yes, I'm looking at the yes wargaming. Why haven't British cruisers got high explosive shells yet? Well, hopefully I'll have to do a bit of googling for it probably. But apart from that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed it. If so, then don't forget to hit the like button. Leave a comment as well what you think, and hopefully I will see all of you lot in any one of these good, lovely looking cruisers. Hopefully, take care, everybody. Cheerio.